And the topic that I'll be talking to you today is about rising prices, smaller wallets, and how Thai consumers are handling this. So I think this is a topic that's close to everyone because it's about money. And we also did a study on Thai consumers asking do you think your financial situation is better or worse? And predominantly people say it's worse. So I think it's a relevant topic for everyone. So just to start, right now what's happening in Thailand is that we can see the rising prices, which is caused by the rising inflation, cost of living. So in turn, what happened is that consumer behavior has changed. And at the same time, while prices are rising, we also see smaller wallets, which, like I said earlier, majority of Thai people says that their financial situation is worse. So it's a problematic situation. And I'll be sharing some insight on how Thai consumers are reacting to this. Okay. So just to give you context, right now, compared to the past, Thailand's inflation is at an all-time high in the past 14 years. So it's a pretty big problem for all industries, as you can see in some of the news headlines here. And some people even go as far as calling inflation the new pandemic, especially in the West. So I think it's very relevant for us. And in order for us to navigate through these changing times, we have to be able to understand how people are thinking and how their behaviors are changing, which the disruption is caused by not only inflation, but also by pandemic and also global unrest and also war. So we have to think about how, what, and where people are acting differently. So that's what I'll be sharing with you today. So this is what I mentioned earlier. 13% of Thai consumers say that they feel their financial situation is extremely worse compared to last year, while 46% say that their financial situation is moderately worse. While most of the remaining people say it's status quo, they say that's not much change, but this is already almost 60%, almost half of the Thai populace stating that they feel that their spending power is less and that they're having more trouble with their financial situation. So how do people react? So they have smaller wallets, so what they think is, I need to reduce spend, I have to spend less. So what they do is they either buy fewer things, go to cheaper stores, or buy cheaper things. In turn, from buying fewer things, they either cut back on non-essentials or what they think is luxury products or things that are not really essential they can cut back on. And they also decrease consumption on things they use or buy, such as if you use for example, shampoo, you might use less shampoo each time you shower or less shower cream. So people are forced to spend less, so they have to either use one of these coping strategies. So for cheaper stores, I'll be giving some examples on the difference in the store choice as well. And for buying cheaper things, people nowadays, they go for promotions and also trying to find cheaper products. So cheaper substitute products. In the past, they might buy premium coffee by for example, Starbucks, but now you might change to 3-in-1 coffee or cheaper black coffee. That's essentially much 70% cheaper. Okay. So I will be giving some insights from Kantar World Panel because we are a consumer panel that tracks about to track 8,000 consumers. So we know their shopper behavior. So it's a continuously tracked panel since 1999. So we're able to track their trends and purchase behavior all the way back. So I'll be sharing some insights today that I think might be useful for everyone. So the first is cheaper stores. This is a lot of data, but in summary, we can consider people are going for larger and smaller stores. It might sound confusing about why larger and why smaller at the same time, but on the left side here, you can see larger format stores. People are going to buy stores such as Macro, Lotus, Big C, where there's more value pack size. At the other hand here, they're also going for smaller formats, which is more affordable trial pack size. Well, the medium size stores, they're declining. So store choice has changed. So they're going for larger and smaller at the same time. While e-commerce, of course, is actually, to be honest, e-commerce has been growing a lot, but it's plateauing this quarter, just to be completely honest. But it's also happening globally. We found out penetration for e-commerce has, it's not increasing, but what's increasing is the frequency of usage, but not the penetration. The penetration is actually quite stable. Okay. So if you're a brand, you can like keep this in mind that like people are probably going to move more towards like smaller stores, proximity stores, and also more like value pack stores. Okay. Next is consumer behavior has also changed. So what these two numbers show is that they're cutting back on non-essentials and also decreasing consumption. On the left is the number of grocery shopping trips an average household makes per year. So it's 156 shopping trips per year for the entire household. You might think this number is a bit high, but it's not at an individual level, it's at a total household level. So back in 2014, a household would make about 200 shopping trips to the grocery store. But now it's down to 156. So what we think is that people are shopping less on non-essentials. They're only going out to buy when it's necessary for them. At the same time, in the past, FMCG has been growing quite well, but it's now at a standstill. We can see that like average household spend per trip now is unchanged from last year. So people are going to shop less, and while their basket per trip or how much they buy per trip is the same. So the summary is like we're in decline. Yeah. Okay, next slide is, this one is the FMCG change in spend. I will take some time with this slide because it's a lot of numbers and charts. But what we measure is we try to attribute the change compared, like a total year compared with last year, what the change in spend in FMCG is caused by. The yellow bar over here is inflation contribution. We can see that most of the growth in FMCG is almost solely from inflation, which means that FMCG is not growing. But at the same time, we can see that at the bottom, the purple one is like, it's attribution from people buying less, while the market is being offset by people buying less and also buying cheaper products, which is the mint bar. So, for example, if you look at for example, your financial report, you can see that your sales are growing, but it's actually from inflation. People are buying less, and they're also buying cheaper stuff. So this is at the total FMCG level for about 100 tracked FMCG categories, except alcohol and tobacco. So let's take a closer look at inflation's impact. So what's inflation caused by? We think that inflation is caused by things such as staff shortages, supply chain shortages, rising global cost of energy, cost of importing goods that are rising, logistics that are getting more problematic, and also the war between Russia and Ukraine. So if you look at a global commodities market, it's very obvious that like all of the different industries are struggling. Oil prices are rising, like coffee is rising, oil is rising, sugar is rising. So no matter what industry you're in, it's a struggle. Things are getting harder for everyone. So in terms of FMCG inflation, the range on each individual category is extremely wide. The most impacted category that we found was on cooking oils, which is 31% inflation, which is tremendous compared to other countries, while rice, surprisingly, the inflation is just 0.5%. So this chart, what we did was we tried to see the inflation of each individual FMCG category from highest inflation to lowest inflation. On the left-hand side here, you can see the most impacted categories by inflation, which is bad news for Thai consumers because most of it is essentials for living. It consists of cooking oil, soybean sauce, which is an essential cooking ingredient for Thai households, detergent, which is also essential. Also, canned fish, infant formula, which is also essential unless you like switch to breastfeeding. And so we think that like based on the impacted categories on inflation, I think that it's hard for like Thai consumers because like if you look at the right-hand side, most of the unimpacted categories are like more luxury or non-essentials. So yeah, it's quite a struggle for Thai households. Okay. So what can we do as market researchers? So from Kantar's perspective, we can provide consumer panel data, global channel forecasts, and also perceptions on what people think about inflation and how people are handling it. So that's pretty much it from me today. So just to highlight from Kantar, we have 5 panels right now. These are different panels we have. We track household, baby, out-of-home, beauty, and also fresh food. So if you have any questions on inflation or if you want any more information, please feel free to ask me, or if you want more information on each individual category, feel free to contact us as well. Okay, thank you.
Piradej, I'll just get you to stay on stage for a moment in case people have any questions. I've got a comment to make, because when you're looking at the consumer good category the way it is, and down to the individual level that you broke out, cooking oils, even to a lesser extent rice, but it's hurting, and there are certain people in the country who are probably hurting a little bit more, and it's a difficult time, and it's not just here. I think everywhere in the world is facing similar battles when it comes to rising prices and share a wallet. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask specifically on the topic there?
How do you see the emerging of the growth of the e-payment right in Thailand as compared to the other markets?
Actually, I see, for example, in China, we have some data that there's alternative payment methods coming up, such as, I think it's called quick commerce. I think there's actually room for Thailand to grow a lot in terms of the e-commerce payment channels. So despite because if you look at the traditional Shopee, Lazada, whatever it's right now, I think it's plateauing. It's a bit becoming a struggle. So I think right now, based on what we see from other markets, other payment channels would be good, because in China it's going pretty well for quick commerce.
Actively involved. I have a lot of friends in the restaurant industry, and they seem to have a lot of problems finding staff. Even though they raise the salaries, they're having a hard time finding staff. And so I'm wondering doesn't that sort of contradict the idea that wallets are shrinking? I mean, considering that it seems like there's more jobs available for them that they're not taking, number one. And number two, it seems like, I may be wrong, I'm not speaking based on statistics, it's all anecdotal. And it seems like they're raising salary offerings, and still there are no takers. So I'm like, doesn't that sort of contradict, or why the contradiction, if at all?
I think it depends on the industry as well, because sometimes if you look at the rising prices, it might not offset the salary increase. So the inflation in turn is actually higher than the pay raise, to be frank. So I think you have to look at it by industry as well, and yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add to the point too with the salary level, some of the information that's been shared out there. It's not, the wages are not increasing at the same level, which is affecting. There is jobs, but even the amount of jobs that are available are probably less so as well. And the amount of money that people are taking home as a result of the work that they're doing, a lot of it is people just making money for themselves. And then the last point around that is the amount of debt. So a lot of people are now in a lot more debt than what they were, and that's also increasing at a rate.
Yeah, I was wondering if it had anything to do with maybe a lot of them, because this is the working class. I was wondering if it had anything to do with a lot of them during COVID going home to the provinces, and therefore they're not in Bangkok to take the jobs. I know that's just a guess of some of my restaurant owner friends. They're it's maybe they went over to the province for COVID or during COVID or something. I don't know. Can you comment on that?
I think that's true, because during COVID, if we look at the statistics for mobility, it significantly declined. But right now we see in terms of mobility, it's pretty much better, but not back to pre-COVID levels. So thinking from the terms of staffing for working class, I think it should be better than the past. But in terms of, just to add on, there's about household debt. Household debt, I think it's it's also a very important point, because in terms of debt, if we measure it from like past few years, it's still ongoing. Actually, I can't believe like it's still ongoing that household debt is like still increasing despite like people knowing that things are getting harder. So people are still, they still want to spend despite like having less spending power. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Very pleased to have you here. The next presentation we've got, we're going to have a look at an industry which is going to be obviously a higher purchase power than what we saw with the consumer goods. But what this company is done and is planning on doing, particularly with the transformation, is very interesting. So we're going to hear from Boonyavanit from a great wall motors, and we're interested to hear on what they've been doing